Y'all are armed with a lot of great statistics, and so we're ready to get to work. Hey, at last year's summit, the highlight without question was a talk given by Drayton McLean. My goodness, so many folks came to me after the event and just said, man, we learned so much from Drayton, his wisdom that he shared, and entertaining stories about his friendship with Sam Walton, working with Walmart, and his life in the grocery business, and then in Major League Baseball. It was really great. And so I thought, you know, if you got something good, stay with it. So I called Drayton to ask him if he would join us again, and he said, those are my kind of people. I would love to. He's an amazing man, and even at 88 years young, he works every day, and I can tell you he loves Jesus, his family, working hard, the Baylor Bears, and Prime Pursuits. Please welcome Drayton McLean.
Thank you, Bob.
You bet.
And it's an honor to be here and to share these thoughts that you have and learning together. I'm just amazed to see the industry that's represented here. Bob tells me there's over 200 ranches in the United States that are represented here today. Just a few years ago, this forum didn't exist. So life and farming and ranching is certainly improving. Our family has a ranch in Central Texas, and as you can see, I'm not the rancher. And you're probably glad, and the cattle glad too, that I'm not the rancher. We have a family, the McDermott family. They represent the third and fourth generation in the cattle business, and they run a magnificent operation. So we're very excited about this industry, what it represents, and how it gets a brighter future. I'd like to just give us a challenge to think about where we are today, but where we've come from. Where we are today, I like to think about every morning when I get up. I try to think on this, how fortunate we are in America. There's a little over 8 billion people live in the world, and about 240 million live in the United States. We represent 8% of the world. Aren't we lucky that we were born and we live in America? This is a great, great opportunity we have. And God has blessed us to give us this opportunity. But we have a responsibility of who we've become as a nation, our skills and ability. We can help and support people around the world to live better. So we need to continue to think of that. One other thought I think about, we represent 8% of the people of the world. America represents 38% of the wealth of the world. Isn't that amazing? 8% of the people, we have 38% of the wealth of the world. Why do we have that? Some of my thoughts are, we're a Christian nation. We have Christian values of how we live, how we conduct our lives, and how we do in business. So that's one great thing. We have a great educational system in America. We kind of get tumbled around in it sometime, but we have a superior education system in public schools, university training. So we have that advantage. But in America, we're free. We can become what we want to become. And I think that's the great asset of why we have 38% of the wealth of the world. We're entrepreneurs, we're business risk people, we love new ventures, and we move forward. But we're in a world that's changing fast. Our family is involved in a sports marketing business in Texas, dealing with high school sports and academics. It's a publication, and in Texas, people who ask me all over the world where I go, is the oil industry the biggest business in Texas? I say, oh no. High school football is the biggest industry in Texas. And at the end of the season, they have 12 high school games in different categories to determine the championship. And these 12 games over 4 days, there's about 300,000 people come to high school football championships. The individual that runs the business, I was talking to him a few days after the championships was over, and I said, how long before we get the statistics on how many people attended each game? Because we used to wait a week or so to get it. He said, we get it within 5 minutes after the game starts. I said, what? How do you do that? He said, we've employed a technology company that has the equipment, and in 5 minutes, they scan the stands, and they tell how many people have a mobile phone. Isn't that interesting? Just in a few seconds, they can determine where there's 30,000 people, how many mobile phones there. So we just take the total number of mobile phones and add 20% to it, and that's how many people are there. Just staggering every day. We hear something new about how technology is changing us. And that's exactly what the previous speaker just left. He was talking about all these statistics. Just a few years ago, we didn't have all of that. So it's just amazing. We got skills, ability. The other thing we have in abundance, we invent things. The mobile phone, who invented it? Apple computer. Look at all of the other devices. The vast majority are all invented in America. From the beginning of the computer back in the 50s on through. We're inventive, we're dynamic, we endorse the future. So I think as we go through this, and we see Walmart today, you saw the Walmart executives, you'll have a chance to meet the CEO of Walmart in just a few minutes. But I'd like to take you back to 1962. Sam Walton owned a group of 7 Ben Franklin stores. Anybody ever remember the old Ben Franklin stores that were in rural America? And he had 7 of them in northwest Arkansas in small towns. He heard one day in 1962 that right outside of Detroit, Michigan, the Kresge Company started a new concept. Anybody know what that is? Kmart, 1962. He heard about it. He drove to Detroit, saw the stores, saw the dynamics, drove back home, told his wife, Helen, they had 4 teenage kids, we're selling all the Ben Franklin stores instantly, and we're going to build a discount store. Helen said, what in the heck is a discount store? And he began to describe it. That was the beginning of a venture. And he started very, very humbly in doing this in 1962 in northwest Arkansas. And he had a lot of success and a lot of difficulty. We like to think all these big ideas, new thoughts, it just falls in place and it's a bed of roses, but it's not. David Glass, who joined Walmart in the late 1960s, was one of the best, with Sam, business leaders I've ever known. He was the CEO of Walmart for 27 years. He was an accountant by profession. And David loved to tell the story that he was an accountant for a drugstore chain in Springfield, Missouri. And Sam had been trying in the late 60s to recruit him to move to Bentonville and be the CFO of Walmart. And he said he had turned him down, but Sam is a very persistent person. And Sam told David in the late 60s, we're opening a new store in Rogers, Arkansas. And I want you and Ruth, your wife, to come up and see that store on a Saturday. We're really going to show you something good. So David said he and his wife drove to Rogers, Arkansas. They got there in the early afternoon on a hot July afternoon. Back in those days, you did various things in retailing. And out on the parking lot, he had about 6 donkeys and had a little fence around the donkeys. And that was one of the enticements to get people to come. They could put their children and walk on a donkey. He also had big, big barrels that he put watermelons in, and he put ice on top of the watermelon in the barrels. Well, David said, we got there in the early afternoon on a hot July. Said the donkeys had been doing what donkeys do. And he said the smell was overwhelming, bad. Said the watermelons, the ice had melted, and most of the watermelons had exploded. So he said there was watermelons all over the parking lot. There was donkeys all over the park. And he said, his wife Ruth said, David, don't get out of the car. Let's go home. They did get out. He said the store equally wasn't very good either. But it was a beginning. He said he was captivated not by the store, not by the environment. He was captivated by Sam Walton. The vision, the enthusiasm. So we all think that those that have achieved a great deal of success, it just falls in their lap. It doesn't. Mistakes, errors, problems exist everywhere we go. The ingredients Sam had were two powerful ingredients. He was a person of great personal integrity. He was a fine Christian. He and his wife were strong Presbyterians. He had a great faith. He had imagination, and he was a risk taker, and he inspired other people. In 1972, I went to the grocery industry meeting like this, but there were about 4,000 people there. The CEO of the Kroger company, who at that time was by far the largest retailer in America, and Gene Hoffman was the president, he came out and talked to our group. He said something in his talk. I couldn't remember all the rest, but what his powerful thought was, and I also think of this every day. He said, you'll never become what you want to be by remaining as you are. Can I repeat that? He said, you'll never become what you want to be by remaining as you are. The world needs leaders and ideas. I heard another inspirational leader said one time, in defining a leader is a person that will take you to a place you would not have gone by yourself. Is that this meeting here today? It's a venture to come to Scottsdale, out of wherever you are. You took a risk, and probably the people you work with or your family said, why in the world are you going to waste 3 days going to Scottsdale? You ought to be here and take care of business. Some new ideas. So as we go forward with our experience, we need to continue to take ideas and try to expand them. Our family was in a grocery logistics business. We supplied supermarkets, convenience stores, and mass merchandisers like Walmart. In the late 70s, Walmart was not in Texas. Our headquarters was in Temple, Texas, right in Central Texas, and I had heard suppliers and other people in the food industry talk about these new stores, discount stores in Arkansas. They were in Arkansas and Missouri and Kansas and Oklahoma. They hadn't come into Texas. But I heard they were really growing and they were doing good things. So I wrote a letter to just Walmart and told them who we were. We were a family distribution business. I'd like to come see them. Never heard a word back. So that's just typical. Can't get discouraged easily. I knew someone in the food business that was from Arkansas, so I called him and I said, do you know the Waltons and Sam Walton? He said, I know him a little bit. And I asked him if he could get me an appointment. And he called me back in a few days, said, come on up. And they said, just come over and you can talk to Sam and David. So I was so excited. And so I went up there and did get to see them too. And I told them who we were. We were in the logistics, had big warehouses, computer systems, transportation, and we could assist them. Sam looked me in the eye and said, McLean, we got more warehouses than you do. We got more trucks than you do. We got a bigger computer than you got. We don't need anything you do. I thought, oh, brother. I came all the way up to Arkansas. I had to drive. And I thought, that wasn't going to get me down. So the first of every month for 9 months, I drove up to Arkansas and would go to see them. Then it was very informal, and you could just walk in their office, and I knew both Sam and David were there between 6:30 and 7. So I would go in there, and I'd just walk in their office and talk to them. And a few times David and Sam said, "Not you again." And I just said, if you ever have a problem in logistics, let me know. I'll fix it. Had no idea. After 9 months, one day I picked up the phone and said, "Drayton, Sam Walton." I thought, wow. "Are you still interested?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Be here tomorrow." I thought, this is it. Went up there and he said, "Let me tell you where our problems are." You remember the old Walmarts had snack bars? They weren't the jazziest thing you've ever seen. And they had problems in some of the food products for their snack bar. He said, "We want you to do that." Boy, my heart sunk, because they were over 5 states and we were in Texas and there wasn't going to be big volume. And you know what I said? "We'll do it." So I came back to Temple, took our 5 top executives, told them what he's going to do. They said, "Drayton, you're crazy. We're going to lose a lot of money doing that." I said, "I think we will, but it's a start." And we started with them, took about a year, and we were able to expand into other categories. And we developed a great, great business relationship and a personal relationship with Sam Walton and David Glass. Sam was Mr. Extrovert, big ideas, challenging, interesting. David Glass was one of the best critical business thinkers I've ever seen. And they were the most marvelous pair I have ever seen. Sam even made David president and CEO, but Sam was the boss. And they both worked in different areas of the business and worked in a harmonious relationship. So I challenge you as you're developing your business, teamwork is what successful businesses are all about. Bringing people together. So those two worked in a marvelous, marvelous way. It was interesting getting to know both of them. And Sam even started coming down and going through our distribution centers. And he would give good ideas. And Sam, Monday through Thursday of every day, didn't go to the office. He was out in the stores. He was touring the stores, as most retailers do. And he invited me several times, many times, to travel with him. And Sam was an interesting person. Most CEOs that have stores, they go into their stores. At that time, Sam had a philosophy. He and his executives, when they were out touring stores, 50% of the stores they had to go into could not be Walmart stores. Not many retailers do that. You went into other stores. I've toured stores with Sam. I've been to feed stores. I've been to high-end jewelry stores. I've been in department stores, every kind of store under the sun. And Sam always said, if they're in business, they're doing something right. You can learn something from every place you go. So if you see the wide variety of Walmart today, it's because of that curiosity, not accepting you have it right, and how you can continue to expand and do more things. So I challenge you in your business. We get awful caught up in who we are, our routines. Venture around. There are ideas everywhere as you can expand your ideas and expand your business. So, and Sam said, if there's in business and they're paying their bills, they're doing something right. And there's variations of all of this. So business is just, I think, a thrill. It's exciting. And you can lift yourself and be imaginative. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. As long as you have honesty, integrity, high Christian principles in all that you do, make a mistake, correct the mistake, then move forward. Have any of you ever been the lack of vision? This was in 1991. Sam called me one day and said, Drayton, David Glass and I want to come see you tomorrow. I thought, yippee, we're going to get some more business from him. So I met him at the airport. He said, let's go to your office. And he got in his office, and it was just Sam, David, and I. And he said, I've watched you, Drayton. I know your personality. I want you to sit right there, and I'm going to say something to you, and I don't want you to react till I get through. Our company was started by my grandfather in 1894. In 1929, when my father got out of college, he went to work for his dad. In 1959, when I got out of college, I went to work for my dad. We had built the business up, but our family owned the business. Sam looked at me and said, Drayton, I'm going to buy a McLean Company. What do you think I did? I jumped straight up, and I said, McLean Company is not for sale. He said, sit down. You told me you'd sit here and listen to me. He said, David Glass and I have a big, big idea. This was 1991. He said, we're going to take that 130,000 square foot Walmart discount store, doesn't have food, and we're going to split it apart, and we're going to put a 55,000 square foot supermarket right in the middle of it. And it's going to be 200,000 square feet, and it's going to be operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know what I said? Sam, nobody wants to buy groceries at 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, sit down. You're supposed to be listening to me. And we're going to change everything in the food business. At that time, Kroger was the largest supermarket chain. Safeway was number 2. Sam said, in 10 years, we'll be the largest supermarket chain in America. It took 3. But he's trying to sell the idea. So we don't understand perishables, products, and shipping them. We don't understand groceries. That's what you all do. We want to buy Walmart or McLean Company and make them a subsidiary of Walmart, and you'll be the CEO of that and vice chairman of Walmart. You know what I said? I don't want to be the vice chairman of Walmart. I still was very narrow. Looking at it. So anyway, we talked for a while and took him back to the airport. Shows you what creativity is. When I got home, my wife Elizabeth said, what's this big deal Sam Walton's talking about? I said, what are you talking about? She said, Sam's already called me. She knew him. Said, Sam's already called me and said, Drayton has no vision. And I offered him a deal of a lifetime. And he told me no. So I thought, boy, Sam, David, Elizabeth. So we began to look at this. We get trapped in how we see. We were doing great. We had grown over 30% a year for over 30 years. We were doing super. Didn't see it. My father was 92 years old, wasn't in the best of health, but he would come to the office 2 or 3 days a week, wasn't deeply involved in the business, but people radiated around him. So this had gone on for 2 or 3 weeks with Sam and David, talking back and forth. And I thought, you know, I haven't said this idea to my dad. So I went in, 92 years old. We had had all kind of people approach us about selling, and we'd never even listened to one. I went in and said, Dad, let me tell you an idea Sam and David had. I told him. He said, I think that's a big idea. I think you ought to think about that. I was stunned. A 92-year-old man, the business had really, outside of his faith and his family, had been his life. And he said, son, there's only so big you can make a private business, but if you put them together, untelling what you can do. I was just shocked. We get narrow when we have success, and we don't see a bigger picture. So I began to think, I said, boy, everybody else sees this, and I'm the last one. So I went up and continued discussions with Sam and David, and very quickly, we had a purchase where Walmart purchased McLean Company. It was a great, great venture, big ideas, big thoughts, Our society just moves forward in a very, very rapid way. So there's so much opportunity here, individually, collectively, in an industry. And I was just impressed with these statistics that were just shown of how the industry has grown. Public loves high quality, low prices, and that's what we have here. So as you're thinking about prime pursuit, the food industry, the cattle industry, and the various things that go on there, there is a world of opportunity to continue to expand in all of these categories. So continue to think of that not just narrowly of where you are, but of seeing how other ideas can be fitted together. It's just astounding, as we talked about with technology. It's just beginning. The ones that are really going to be good are our children and our grandchildren. They're born into it. We had to adjust to it and still don't totally understand all of this. But they're going to see the world in a much, much different concept and a different idea. So we don't want to accept all the technology, but we certainly need to learn to deal with it and think of big, exciting, monumental ideas that people can expand into their business and their thought processes. I commend Bob and his entire team. This is all new territory of combining the greatest asset in America, entrepreneurs, people that own land, people that love the business, rather than just being individually in your business, but how you market the product and you go forward. So in accepting that, how can we produce this high quality product in less land, and how to use the resources better than we have? So there's going to be unlimited obstacles, potential, but to continue to move forward into that area of life and that area of business. I could talk for a great deal of time about our family, our senior executives, and Walmart, but the magnificent, real challenge was the beginning. No one really knew that this was going to work, and look how many others have tried retailing and discount, and it didn't work. Look at all the retailers that we all knew of: Sears, Ward, Kmart. You go through how they've all disappeared, and it's just moving into smaller and smaller groups. So that means we've got to see where we fit into this. And so you're associated with Walmart, with the largest retailer in America and the largest retailer in the world. So they're getting a vast amount of experience, not just here, all over the world. We were involved with Walmart when they first went to China. And one of the executives we'd worked with, his name was Joe Hatfield, and he ultimately was the CEO of Walmart China. And he was opening a new supercenter in Shenzhen, China, one of the biggest cities. And I was there, and we were standing on a balcony looking down, and this Chinese lady was checking out. And I said, Joe, do you think she's impressed that it's scanning those items, it's sending it up to a satellite 50,000 feet, sending it to Bentonville, Arkansas, reading the file there, sending it back, come down here, and is printing out her ticket? He said she doesn't care. She cares about the low prices. How do they have the low prices? They use technology in just marvelous ways. So technology will certainly continue to move forward into this area of business. And again, not all the thoughts or the ideas work, but how we can use them, work with them, and then adjust to where we are today. If we don't really see technology change, I marvel every time you can go to a big airport here in Scottsdale or Dallas-Fort Worth or Chicago, and you can hop on a 777. I was going to Dubai one time from Houston, and we took off there in a Boeing 777. The captain came back, and I was just chatting with him because it's a 16-hour flight. And I asked the captain, I said, how much did this plane weigh when we took off? He said it weighed 1.1 million pounds. Has only 2 engines. Weighed 1.1 million pounds. Said, how much distance did it take to take it off? He said 5,400 feet. Are we pretty smart? I asked him the other question that just startled me. I said, how much fuel did we have on the plane when we took off? You know what he said? 35,000 gallons of jet fuel. You can fly 16 or 18 hours. Just look all over. So the industry to move forward. One of the things I like to think about is where did we start and where are we today? When the Pilgrims came over and for 100 years, you know what the number one industry in America was? Agriculture. Was for a long time. Second wave, steel. Third wave, railroads and automobiles. And now it's technology and healthcare. Continue to move forward. But agriculture fits into every part of that. One of the great experiences with working with Walmart are the executives, and you've seen 5 or 6 of them here today. I've had the pleasure of working with almost or every one of the CEOs of Walmart. And I got a real pleasure when I was going in the lobby a few minutes ago. The number one person with Sam to start with, his name was Jack Shoemaker. His daughter is here today. And I felt like a hero I felt like I was around a hero. And her Jack Shoemaker was so important in the beginning of Walmart. Then it was David Glass, Lee Scott, and others. The current CEO of Walmart is Doug McMullen. I've known Doug. Doug grew up in the Bentonville area, went to the University of Arkansas. While he was going to school, he worked summertime in the logistics supply chain of Walmart. Came up through that, and today, Walmart has over 2 million employees, and Doug is the CEO of Walmart. So help me welcome Doug McMullen.